Fellow citizens, patriots, comrades, this is Miguna Miguna from Toronto, Canada on May 18th, 2018. I'm recording this message in response to the Honorable RAILA Odinga's lies peddled in London, the UK, today at a public gathering. I respect RAILA Odinga as an elder. However, I am forced to respond to the scandalous falsehoods and unbelievable claims he has made in London because I believe in honesty, truth, and integrity. The Right Honorable RAILA Odinga and everyone else in the Republic of Kenya is aware of the circumstances under which I was removed from the Republic of Kenya on February 6, 2018. I did not travel to Canada. I did not book a plane to come to Canada. I did not leave my home to go to the airport to take a plane in February to come to Canada. On January 30th, 2018, I attended a huge gathering at Uhuru Park, and I swore RAILA Odinga in as the people's president. On February 2nd, 2018 at 5:30 p.m., RAILA Odinga, Jimmy Wanjigi, and Willis Otieno were supposed to see me at 7 that morning. However, at 5:30, a group of more than 50 thugs, not dressed in police uniform, attacked my home, blew up my door using a military charger or detonator, destroyed the house, came and abducted me from my own house. They kept me in incommunicado detention under horrible, cruel, and inhuman conditions for 6 days. I was moved from one police station to the other. I was denied access to a doctor. I was denied access to lawyers. I was denied access to basic necessities of life. I was denied sleep. I was denied water. I was denied toilet access. I was denied sleep. I was tortured physically, emotionally, psychologically. I was traumatized. Eventually, after all of that, and more than 7 court orders requiring that they produce me in court, they took me 100 kilometers away from Nairobi to Kajiado and charged me with treason. They did that even though there were orders, multiple orders, requiring them, directing them to take me to Milimani Court, High Court in Nairobi. The magistrate, the Honorable Mulochi, refused to take the plea and ordered that I be taken to the Milimani Court by 3:30 p.m. that afternoon. Instead of taking me to the court, these thugs abducted me again, took me to the Inland Depot Detention Center on Mombasa Road up to about 5:30 p.m. From then, they took me into a vehicle, bundled me up, took me to the airport up to the runway, and at about midnight, bundled me up and took me forcefully out of the country in slippers. It was not my choice to leave. They did this forcefully and illegally. RAILA Odinga knows that I was born in Kenya. RAILA Odinga knows, and everybody knows, that I have never renounced my Kenyan citizenship. RAILA Odinga knows that I had a valid passport on the 6th of February when these goons took my passport away, went and destroyed it even though they had been ordered by the court the Honorable Luka Kimaru ordered them to return that passport to the custody of the court. They went and punched holes in it. So when I returned on March 26, pursuant to Justice Chacha Mwita's orders of February 26, 2018, I was supposed to be given unconditional entry into the country. I was supposed to be treated as if I did not leave the country. That was the court order. I was not ordered to reapply for citizenship because I had not lost my citizenship. I was not ordered to manufacture a new passport. These thugs, the Jubilee security forces, were ordered to return the valid passport they had confiscated from me on February 2nd. Raila Odinga knows that. Raila Odinga knows that I'm not responsible for the destruction of that passport. So for him to take to the podium and claim that I refuse to re-enter the country is to be so cruel, it is unspeakable. It is as if Raila Odinga is saying that I'm responsible for having been abducted. I'm responsible for having been detained in Comunicado. That in fact, I detained myself. I tortured myself. I forced myself into exile. Raila Odinga is re-victimizing me. This is cruel for a man who himself has been detained illegally and has been tortured. He should know. He knows. But how cruel can one be to minimize what I have gone through? When I was stopped from entering the country, this was done on live TV. It is not true that anybody asked me for anything at the airport. They simply refused to allow me entry. In fact, they had already booked a return flight for me in the Air Dubai flight that was leaving that night, the one that they tried to force me into and that I refused to board that day. This had already been done before I actually landed at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. They already had an air ticket booked, waiting for me. So in other words, Raila Odinga had come there to supervise my torture, my assault, and my forceful exile. This is unspeakable cruelty. 2, Raila Odinga knows that when he came to the airport on March 26th, I was inside the baggage area with more than 4 lawyers, advocates, representing me. I was there with Honorable Rengo. I was there with Nelson Harvey. I was there with Cliff Ombeta. I was there with Dr. Haminwa. I was there with Julie Soweto. These lawyers witnessed what happened. None of them has corroborated what Raila Odinga is trying to peddle now. Things that even Matiang'i has not peddled, Raila is trying to peddle. This is dishonorable. It is disgraceful. It is beneath a person of the status of Raila Molo Odinga. But here he is trying to peddle these lies in order to cover for his betrayal of his supporters, in order to justify torture and sedation, in order to justify forceful exile. Let me say this crystal clear. A passport does not vest citizenship. Less than 10% of Kenyans hold Kenyan passports, but they are still citizens. My grandmother, my father, my mother, all my relatives do not have passports. My immediate family, none of them has passports. And yet, they are all citizens. A passport does not vest citizenship. Birth does. If you're born in a country like I was, that citizenship is automatic. And unless you renounce it, and I have not renounced my Kenyan citizenship, you cannot lose it. You cannot lose citizenship through osmosis. You cannot lose it through an operation of law. Losing citizenship is a legal process. You must renounce it, and you must have a certificate of renunciation. These characters do not want to take me to court because they cannot prove what they are claiming. One, they should produce my certificate of renunciation of my Kenyan citizenship. They know they can't. Two, they must prove treason, which is what they charged me with. They know they can't. Because I, as a lawyer and a commissioner of oaths, has an ethical obligation to commission an oath which I've been requested to do and that I've accepted to do. And in any event, if they have to prosecute me for treason, which I'm ready to face, they would also have to prosecute Raila Odinga as the principal participant in the Treason Act. I would be more than happy to stand trial. This is what the courts have demanded consistently, that they bring me to court, and they have refused, and Raila Odinga knows. The forms that I was given at the toilet at the international airport in Nairobi were forms that were allegedly for me to reclaim my citizenship. Of course, I refused to sign the forms. Of course, I refused to fill the forms. Of course, I tore the forms. I tore them up and threw them away. Why? Because I never lost my citizenship. And I did not want anybody to put a gun to my head and force me to sign a form that I did not want to sign. So I tore them up in the presence of people because I did not want to be left with the forms alone when these people were capable of forcing me under threat of death to sign forms that I was not willing to sign. The courts are the only arbiter of legal disputes. The courts have determined that the allegation that my citizenship was cancelled by Matiang'i was null and void. Justice Kimaru did that on February 15th. Justice Kimaru ruled that the purported cancellation of my passport was null and void because it was done in contempt of court order. Justice Kimaru ruled that the proscription of the National Resistance Movement Kenya was also illegal and lifted the ban. These are court orders Raila Odinga was aware of. He is also aware of them right now. When Raila Odinga claims that somehow Miguna just needs to go to Ottawa and get his travel documents, he is being mischievous and malicious. He knows that the retired Major General Kihalangwa, the PS in the Ministry of Interior, no, it's not the Ministry of Interior, is responsible for immigration, has written to say that he is not going to reissue me with a passport, and he would require me, despite the court orders ordering him that he issue me with a passport and that I'm a Kenyan citizen, he says I have to reapply for Kenyan citizenship. A matter that is before the court, a matter that the court has already issued a valid court order on. He continues to act in contempt of court order. This is a man who is already been convicted. This is a convicted criminal. Raila Odinga knows that the embassy has no power to issue passports. The Department of Immigration in Kenya does. Raila Odinga knows that the embassy has not been authorized to buy an air ticket for me because Kihalangwa says he will not do so, despite the court orders. Raila Odinga knows that I am not here willingly and voluntarily, that I am here against my will. But because Raila Odinga panders to Jubilee, does not want people to know, Kenyans to know, that his mythical bridges in the air are just that, mythical bridges in the air, which even Uhuru Kenyatta has not spoken about, has not validated, that he surrendered to Uhuru without leverage. He disbanded his supporters, his resistance against Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee administration, threw up its arms, took payment in exchange, and forgot about his supporters. These are facts. These are facts that cannot be denied. It is completely unacceptable for Mr. Odinga to minimize the barbaric treatment I have been subjected to by suggesting that I am required to go to Ottawa and receive my Kenyan passport, when the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights, a constitutional commission with the only mandate to supervise the compliance of state institutions with respect to human rights, wrote to the Department of Immigration and to Matiang'i, Minister of Interior, to demand that they comply with court orders. And instead of doing so, they have continued to act with impunity. It's embarrassing and desperate for a man of Ms. Odinga's age and status to lie that I had abducted myself, detained myself in Communicado at various polling stations, and at a toilet at Terminal 2 of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, sedated myself, forced myself into a plane to Dubai unconscious on March 29th, and forcefully exiled myself back to Canada. This is disgraceful. Finally, we must encourage the Kenyan media to be honest and report on facts accurately and fairly. They must stop encouraging and glorifying leaders from lying, blatantly lying, flagrantly distorting known facts. They should not encourage and urge leaders to misinform the public, because that perpetuates the culture of impunity. The media has an ethical obligation to themselves, each one of the professionals and the media houses, and to the public, to report facts fairly and accurately. Thank you very much for listening.